Like, you can fully like cover me up. Here is all that I read in March, and all that I'm gonna read in April. I can't believe that it's already April. Like, that's the craziest thing to me. I'm really excited it is because spring and summer are my favorite, and I really can't stand winter at all. So it's like 70 degrees today, so it's like the perfect day to be filming this. Spring has sprung, and I'm ready to read lots more books in April. I'm gonna start with my March reads, what I've already read, and then second we're gonna go to what I'm gonna read in April. Let's take a quick look at all of the stats that I had for March on my little app. So for March I read 6 books, and I read 2,397 pages. Honestly, I'm really proud of how many books I read because I had a really busy month and a lot of weeks where I couldn't read. For my replacing screen time video, I read like 3.5 books. And so for that one, that's where I got like most of mine literally in a week. So that was great. But April, I'm hoping I have some more time as my school year comes to an end and I can read a little more because I have a lot of books. So many that I'm wanting to read. But I'll get to those later. So the books that I read in April, the books that I read in March were 2 Reasons to Run, Colleen Coble, the second of a 3-part series. And then I read after that, I read Love Story by Kingsbury. And then after that, I read Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, which I loved. My sister's actually reading it right now, so I don't have it with me. And then I read None Like Him by Wilkin. It's nonfiction, like 10 different things about how God is different from us, which was super good. It's a very thin read. And then I read Better Than the Movies by Lynn. Such a good book, literally. Oh my gosh, I can't get over it. I think about it all the time. And then lastly, I just finished this like last night, I think, is Redeeming Love by Francine. And this book, oh my goodness, I was gutted. After reading this book. I mean, I'll get into it later. I'll save it, but gutted. Okay, let's get into my ratings for all my March reads. I also made this little journal for myself. I love it. It's so cute. It took way more work than it would have been to just purchase one, but I did it anyways. Let's get to, alright, first off, 2 Reasons to Run by Colleen Coble. This is part of the Pelican Harbor series. I really liked the first one, One Little Eye, I think it was called, but this one just fell super short for me. It was super slow, like almost the whole time, and I wasn't really interested in the storyline. Like, I was still like invested in the characters or whatever, but like the storyline I just didn't love. And then it was super slow, like all the way to like lead up to the solving of the crime or whatever, and it quite literally solved the crime or finished the story, wrapped it up in 2 pages, maybe even 1.5. It was like the biggest disappointment ever, and I was just like, that's it? Like, we're done here? I don't know. It just was not my favorite. So that's why I gave it 3 stars because I finished it. It was still a good story. I love the characters still. Like, it still had the cult vibes and everything, but like the storyline just was not it for me. So 3 stars for this girly. And then I was gonna read the 3rd of this, but since this one was a bit of a flop for me, I'll read the 3rd sometime. Can't promise you when. Probably not in April, but when I get around to it, I'll read it. Next up, I read Love Story. So the first 2 books of this month were also flops for me. I originally rated Love Story a 3-star, but honestly, I just need to push it down to a 2. Like, it just was not very good. So Love Story, it was a romance, a Christian romance, and it had like 2 different storylines like kind of running parallel, but they never crossed. They never like met each other, had nothing to do with each other at all. And so that was super weird for me. I was like, when are they gonna like come together, like a big, you know? And never happened. So one story was about like a grandson and his granddad, and he was like asking his granddad questions about him and his late grandmother's story, their love story, how they met, all that stuff, like for a school project. And so that was like fun to just like hear that, but it was like, that's the only, that one storyline was like worth the 2 stars. Like, the rest of it was just it. So like the storyline for that specific part of it was good, but it wasn't outstanding in and of itself either. Now the second storyline. This is what really, the whole book. I did not like either of the characters for this specific storyline. Like, their love story, like, sucked. I didn't like that. And basically, him and this girl, they've been engaged twice. They've literally been engaged twice. And now, for some odd reason, he's like, I want to get back together for a third time. And so he's broken off the stuff, and it's like, and so she's obviously like, I don't really know, but she's still like in love with him for some reason, even though she's literally been engaged to him twice and he's broken it off and broke her heart. Anyways, so that from one, I was like, just stop, move on, keep rolling, keep sailing, don't be doing all this. Anyways, so the 2 engagements, they want to get back to her, so he's like trying to find her and like goes and visits her. And quite literally, like, they haven't seen each other in like years. And he goes and visits her and they're immediately like hugging. And I'm like, what? Like, last time you saw each other, you were breaking off your engagement. It's been forever. And he just shows up and everything's forgiven. It just did not make sense. So that's just the bare minimum of it. So in the end of their story, this is a spoiler. So if you want to read it, just skip on. But at the end of it, they get engaged a third time and then go to the courthouse the same day and get married. I'm like, did the first 2 engagements not teach you anything? That it's probably not gonna work? It was bizarre. So yeah, I had to put that girlie at a 2 stars. My month starts to look better. My month looks up after this. And so the next book I read was Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. Now I've heard like negative reviews about this book, but I loved it. I thought it was so good. It held my attention the entire time. I loved like the present and the past, like it went back and forth between timelines, which was so fun, but you didn't like know what the timelines were. It's like, it's hard to explain without spoiling it, but I loved that. And then like I literally could not tell what was gonna happen and I was scared. Like, if you go look at my video of the replacing the screen time video, my facial reactions, I was like shook. Like literally over and over again, like, I mean, speechless. This book was just like so good. I read it super fast. Like, I think I read it in like a day and a half. It just like kept my attention and it was fast paced. There were literally so many times I had to read a page 4 times just to process it and to understand what was happening. And I just love that. So I rated that one a 4.75. I didn't rate it a 5 because like it just didn't give me that 5 feeling. Like, it was so good and I absolutely loved it. It just wasn't a 5-star for me, but like 4.75, like strong rating there. So the next one I read after Lock Every Door, I went back to a romance vibe and I read Better Than the Movies by Lynn. This book was so cute. It's a young adult romance and it was just like such a sweet, innocent love story. It was like enemies, friends to lovers, like boy next door. It was literally so cute. I gave Better Than the Movies 5 stars and I just absolutely loved the characters. And I think I was gonna give it like a 4.75 just because I wanted more of his dog in there, but I was like, okay, I can't expect everything. So, but this one was so good. The characters were so lovable. The storyline was so good. I was back and forth in the middle. In the middle, I was like going back and forth between the 2 different love interests and I was torn. I didn't know which one I wanted. But then, like 3/4 of the way, I was convinced. I was like, this is the only one that I want and I will be terrified and sad and just absolutely gutted if it wasn't him. But then on, it was like she was going back and forth and the storyline wasn't like working out. And so then I was like, shoot, like I'm scared right now. Like, I was so nervous to finish this one. So absolutely 5 stars. Everyone should read this. It's a cute, fast, sweet romance, not like many dark themes at all. Like, it was just a really good like in-between read and very lighthearted and I loved it. So you all should read it. Next up, in March, I read None Like Him by Wilkin. So this one's a nonfiction. It's 10 Ways God is Different from Us. And so this one was super good. And it was really easy to follow along to. She backed everything up with scripture and explained things in a really easy way where you could understand it well, which I really liked because these are like characteristics of God. So like things that are like very complex, you could say, but she made them very, very understandable and then applicable as well. So definitely love this one. I don't really give my nonfictions ratings because I feel like they're very matter of fact. So it was just a really good book and I feel like everybody should read it. It's a super short read and really good to just understand the basics of who God is. The last book I read, finished it literally last night, is Redeeming Love by Francine. this book left me, I mean, it's hard to even explain like how good this book was. It has a lot of very in-depth, dark, and like you could even say disturbing like parts of this book, scenes in this book. But the best part about it is I didn't feel like these scenes were just thrown into the book to make it all dark and deep and impactful. Like they're there for a reason, and they are all intentional and purposeful within the story. And it literally just shows like a perfect picture of the redeeming love of God, and how no matter your past, no matter your mistakes, no matter what you've been through, what you've done, God's love is completely unconditional for you. He's never gonna leave you, never gonna forsake you. Like, it's absolutely perfect. And one thing I loved about this book too, in a lot of Christian romance, they can almost make the guy be like, oh, like, you're the reason that, like, I'm following God, or like whatever. This book does not do that. It does the opposite. She is like thinking as the male character is, like, she starts to make the male character her God. And so then in the book, it's like, no, like, you need to separate, you need to go find God for yourself. You need to come to Christ. You need to start following God before you can have like this relationship. So anyways, there's so many themes and so much to unpack with this book that I quite literally could not do it in a video. I could talk for hours about this book. It's a really thick read, but honestly I got through it really fast, and it made me feel so many emotions. Like, it was like a roller coaster, constantly up and down, around, about, here, there. Like, I was absolutely all over the place, and I love that. I loved it. So I feel like I'm rambling because this book was so good, but just read it. I promise you. Read it and you'll love it. Do it. I promise you'll love it. Now we're on to what I plan to read in April. And I have a lot on my April TBR, but this is because I don't like expect myself to finish all these books. Like, let me just show you all of the books that I currently have on my April TBR. Like, I think I have like at least like 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I have 8 books. Now, I don't expect to finish all these. I'm not like gonna try and hold myself to it. But the reason why I'm having them here is because I want options. I'm very much of a mood reader. If I'm in the mood for something, I'm not gonna make myself read something that I'm not feeling, or I'm not gonna like it. And so anyways, I'm just trying to give myself lots of options of books to read. And so yeah, let's just get going. Okay, so I'm gonna start with Atonement by mcmanus, I think. I've never heard of this book. I have no idea what it's about. I don't know how good it is. But this was one of the like blind date with a book things that I found at a cute little bookstore in Lincoln. So I really want to read it because it doesn't look like super appealing to me, but the lady at the bookstore said that it's like so good. And so yeah, that is one. It's not super long, but anyways, I'm really excited to read this one. And then another one is Daisy Jones and the Six. Now obviously, I mean, if you're probably watching this, you probably understand what this book is. The series on it, I think it's on Netflix, maybe it's not. Somewhere there's a streaming series, and I really want to watch it because everyone says it's super good, but I'm going to read this first because I was planning on reading this first and then it came out. So I'm not just going to skip this. I'm going to read her. It's got a little bit of coming of age. Basically the band, the Six, is noticing Miss Daisy. Anyways, I don't know a whole lot about this. I kind of like to go into my books super blind, but I've heard incredible things about this book and I'm very excited. It's at the top of my list for my TBR this month. Now, another Taylor Jenkins read. This one is One True Loves. This one is about like basically the wife and her husband. Husband goes away, dies in a helicopter crash. And then wife, like years go by, wife marries another guy, starts a new life. Then he called, hey girly, I'm alive. And so then she's like, oh my gosh, do I leave this guy who's literally been dead for years to just like not have a life? Or do I stay with the life that I currently have? Basically, that's the synopsis. And I am very, 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 very excited to read this one. I've been wanting to for a while after, I don't even know where I saw a review of this book, but I saw it somewhere. And they said it was really good, so she's on the list. Next one I have is One of Us is Lying by Karen mcmanus. I don't know, by Karen. Basically, it's like a high school whodunit type of situation. I've heard it's really awesome. I wanted to throw in a couple like mystery thriller type of vibes in there to break up the romance. So I'm very excited to read this sometime in the middle of April, hopefully. I'm sure it'll be super awesome. Next, I have Verity by Colleen Hoover. This book was gifted to me by someone who I love very much, and it's the like collector's edition of it, and so it's literally so pretty. It's shiny. I'm really excited to read this one. Obviously, I haven't read any Colleen Hoover before, just because like I've heard a lot of her romance are really packed with a lot of spice. Not my personal favorite, but this one is more of a mystery. I honestly have no idea what this is about, but it's a mystery vibe. Anyways, it's a mystery. And so I'm excited to read this. It probably has some sort of like romance subplot, which will be good. I'm excited about that. But anyways, this is my next one, Verity, Colleen Hoover. Next, I have Sarah J. Maas, Throne of Glass. I have been wanting to get into thriller. I've seen so many videos about thriller books lately, and not thriller. This is not a thriller book. This is a fantasy book. Fantasy. I've been wanting to get into fantasy. I've seen a lot of fantasy videos around and about. And I've also heard that this specific series is really good. So I'm excited to start fantasy. I don't know. I've never read a fantasy book. This will be my first. So I'm excited to see if I like it. If fantasy's my vibe, maybe I'll get into fantasy. Maybe I'll have my own fantasy era. We'll see. But yeah, that's my next one. And then I have Mary Jane, which I looked everywhere for this, and I have heard about it a ton, literally since like February, I think. And it's like set in the 70s, and like Mary Jane like comes from a super like conservative, like quiet family, and then she gets a nanny job at like a family with completely different values, and so sees like another side of the world basically because she's been sheltered. So I'm really excited about that. I've heard awesome things about this, and the cover's just beautiful. We're reading this some point in April. This one's pretty high on my list too. Lastly, I have If He Had Been With Me by Nowlin, and I've already started this one. I'm like hardly in. I'm putting on my April TBR because I think tomorrow is April. No, tomorrow's the last day of March, and I'm not finishing this by tomorrow. I quite literally am like that far in. So I'm putting on my April TBR. I've heard that it's really, really sad and that it like crushes your soul, but I'm kind of wanting that. I'm kind of looking for that. That sounds like a fun time to me. So I'm really excited about it. So far, the first few chapters, I'm like trying to like see what's going on. The first chapter, like the big thing is like revealed like right away. I thought that it would give everything away with having that whenever I heard that in like some review, but honestly it like confused me more, and it made me want to be like, okay, wait, pause, what's going on, like let's figure this out. I'm really glad that it's looking up so far, and I have a feeling it's gonna be really good, and I'm ready to have my soul completely crushed by words on paper. So that is all of my books. There's literally so many of them. I'm like, I just need to take a moment. Like that's a lot, and I'm missing 2. I don't have 2 of them, so I like, you can fully like cover me up. Anyways, those are all my books that I read in March, and I'm hoping I'll get to read in April. Let me know if you've read any of these or are planning to read any of these or have any reviews or recommendations on anything I should read. So please like and subscribe and leave me a little comment in the comment section, and I hope to see y'all in my next video. Bye!